and we have a few guest speakers as well. If you're here, I'll probably have everyone sit up here in the front just so that if you want to ask any questions. And I kind of consider open mic, it's, you know, by all means, we're kind of like a whole team panel. So if during the lecture you want to just chime in on stuff, by all means, you can do that during mine as well. But thanks so much for coming, everyone. Really appreciate it. And this is probably one of the first of several in our what we call Becoming Superhuman series. And it's really not just even about biohacking or, you know, peak performance. That's kind of why I wanted to introduce the whole concept of a guest panel, is that it really comes down to a lot of the things that you don't even think about, which what we consider sort of being superhuman or being your better you. So that was the whole nature of how we did this panel, and you know, I'll start off with some introductions as well. I'll probably just read bios, so excuse that if I have to read off the sheet because everyone's so amazing. I want to make sure I don't miss anything. I'll be talking kind of like in generalities on some biohacking topics. There's just so much to dive into, but you know what I'd like to do is we'll kind of have Saad open it up for us, and I'll give a little bio on Saad. He's here as well. Saad, do you want to grab this? You'll come up.
Han, do you want us all to come up?
Huh?
Do you want us all to come up and sit?
If we could have the panelists sit up here in the front, just kind of makes it easier for flow. And then likewise, if people have questions, that's one thing I was going to bring up. We have a ton of prizes for everyone. So anything biohacking related, we kind of have that. One, like a gift certificate to Air Aged Bath. You can go with cold plunging, steam room, all their thermo stuff. So that's great. Lauren has been kind enough from Higher Dose, and she has an infrared sauna gift card, and then there's some IV drips that I'll do myself, and just a bunch of stem cell face masks. That's fun as well. So just pay attention, guys. There's a quiz at the end. Not joking, but it's more of a survey. But I think you'll like it. So that's going to be a good one. So first one going to speak is Saad. Saad is the CEO of Prime. It's one of the premier online longevity destinations. After dropping out of med school and attending business school, Saad ran marketing research for a $4 billion pharmaceutical brand, where he was responsible for $250 million of incremental revenue. Shortly after that, he decided that corporate life was not for him, and he went on to running marketing and sales for Health Central, a Sequoia-backed company and one of the largest healthcare publishers, which went to have one of the most successful exits. Saad then went on to raise several rounds of venture to fund and sell an educational technology company that helped kids improve their critical thinking skills through principles of neuroscience. During his time as CEO, Saad has been featured in Wall Street Journal, Forbes, Fortune, and CNN as a technologist. Since he has gone on to found several companies on that, and right now he's focusing on making Prime, making it one of the most impactful biohacking, longevity, and optimization and peak performance sites online. Thank you, Saad, for being here, and then we'll have your presentation deck as well.
All right, wonderful.
You can come up if you want. I'll just chill to the side.
So I'm actually going to be, can you guys hear me all right, by the way? Yeah. Is it loud enough? Okay. So I'm going to be pretty quick here. And the God's honest truth, I'm going to be quick, because I think they are a lot more interesting than I am. Real quick, with a show of hands, how many people do we have here that are actually what they would consider biohackers? Okay, a few. How many people do we have here that are physicians? Okay, all right. How many people are terrified because they don't know what they're going to learn here today? There are a few, right? So I'll tell you what my story was really quickly. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you about what I do. And then I want to tell you about why it's important probably for everyone here. So when I turned 35, which was 2 years ago, I'm still pretty young. And I started feeling incredibly old. And I went to my physician. I had reduced mental acuity and stamina, my muscle composition was changing, and he said, Saad, it's just part of the normal aging process, and you just have to deal with it. And I said, that's bullshit. I said, I see 80-year-old people looking like they're 45, and the God's honest truth, I want to live until I'm 120, so this isn't acceptable. And he said, listen, you just have to deal with it. So I went on about a 1.5 year long journey. I spoke to about 100 different physicians. I interviewed 4,000 people, and what I learned was one very simple thing. Everyone wants to live for as long as possible, and the second thing is no one knows how to actually do it. So what we decided to do is we opened a very simple site. It's called Prime. You guys can check it out. It is the largest peak performance, optimization, and longevity directory right now in the country. We just launched it about 2 months ago. We're moving pretty fast. Now the reason, hit the next slide, that I want you guys to pay attention is, for me particularly, These 4 things have been incredibly important as I've figured out how to actually hack my own health. The first one is own your journey. So here's the most important thing. You guys are all here, and you've actually probably said to yourselves that we know there is a better solution out there than the one your doctor is probably providing for you. And so you have to remember to take that piece of information and you have to cultivate your own health journey throughout this entire thing. And the other thing too is you can't think that there's any silver bullet. If someone tells you you do this one thing, you do this one infusion, you do this one stem cell therapy, and you are going to be younger for the rest of your life, that's bullshit, right? The reality is that you have to do multiple things over the course of a long period of time, much like Lauren, Dr. Oz, and Dr. Holland are going to tell you about, in order to actually be the best version of yourself. The third one I'd say is you need to be consistent. So how many times do you wake up in the morning, it's 5:15, your alarm goes off, you probably say to yourself, I'm going to journal, I'm going to meditate, I'm going to get myself to the gym, and then you don't do it. I mean, I feel like that's like me like every other day probably, realistically. My girlfriend probably knows, she hears my snooze go off 25 times. The reality is that in order for you to be successful, you just have to consistently do things over and over and over again. And the truth of the matter is, a lot of the time, you kind of get down on yourself because you don't follow through with everything you're supposed to do. You go out, you listen to podcasts, you learn, but the truth is at the end of the day, maybe you hit, I don't know, you bat like an 800, maybe a 500, which means like 1 out of 2 times you're doing everything you're supposed to. The most important thing is to be consistent. And then the fourth one is, if you came to these kind of groups 5 years ago, people probably thought you were a quack. I'm dead serious, right? They thought you were absolutely crazy. And so let me ask you, how many people did you tell tonight that said, are you crazy? Does anyone want to give me a show of hands? No. I'm the only one. Well, that's great, because we're all together. Here's the reality, right, is you guys are all responsible for telling more people about this. I think that's the most important thing. So you come in here, you learn a bunch of stuff, you tell people, hey look, I heard about infrared saunas, or I heard about these amazing healthcare clinics that Dr. Holland's putting together, this amazing supplementation that Dr. Oz told us about. You have to make sure you tell people, and you have to make sure you're an actual advocate for this entire movement. Because here's the most exciting thing. This thing is starting to happen, and it's happening now. Right? My job is speaking to hundreds of physicians, going across the entire country, and groups like this are happening everywhere across the country, and this thing is very, very real, right? We're right at the beginning of this technological renaissance that allows us to live until we're 110, 120, 130. And with that, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to hand the mic over back to Holland so you guys can start hearing some real interesting things that are going on.
Great. Thank you, Saad.
All right. Thank you, guys.